Was it just me, or did the AMD Ryzen 3 event sort of sneak up on you? Let's get into it. Welcome back to another Tech Control video. Before we begin, I'm gonna ask that you hit that big red subscribe button if you haven't already. Now, let's talk about AMD's event. Today, AMD announced the Ryzen 5000 series processors with the Zen 3 microarchitecture. The new 5000 series include the Ryzen 5, the Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9 5900X, and also Ryzen 9 5950X. Now, for those of you that already have AMD in your build, good news, as long as you have a X570 and B550 motherboard, this SoC will work just fine. It is compatible, so you don't have to go out and upgrade your motherboard unless you really want to. AMD has been able to increase the efficiency in the manufacturing process. They're still using the 7nm processor, which is now the second iteration of this processor. I personally wanted to see the 5nm of this Zen 3, but it looks like the 5nm processor is still being worked on, or as they call it, in the design phase. So look out for that, most likely next year, probably around the same time as this event. You think Intel can get their act together from here to then? The Ipc Uplift is now about 19% over last year's Zen 2 model. Zen 3 has a new layout when you compare it to the previous Zen 2 layout. Essentially, the Zen 2 layout has two sets of 16 megabytes L3 cache with 4 cores each, both of these sets working together to compile the processing. Zen 3, on the other hand, the new layout has merged both of these sets together, giving you a total of 8 cores and 32 megabytes of L3 cache. As opposed to Zen 2, each of these sets would compile the data and transfer back and forth one to the other, but because they used this method, there was some latency involved. Now, by combining both, you're doing everything on one set, reducing the latency, and this is where we really see the 19% increase. This is also how you're able to uplift the gaming performance. Somewhere Intel's trying to figure out where they went wrong. Gaming is something that they emphasized from the very start, making it a focal point of the presentation. More on that in just a sec. They're also advertising that the new Ryzen Zen 3 is 2.8 times more efficient than the i9 10 series 10900K. Now back to gaming. They're seeing an average of 26% improvement across the board when it comes to gaming. Now keep in mind that these percentages are really based off of 1080 display. They didn't really specify the frames per second or anything like that, so we can only go by the data that they gave us. Something to note is that not all games got a boost. In fact, we even saw one game in there with a negative 3% boost. But most of the other ones did get somewhat of a significant boost, and this is how they came up with that 26% improvement across the board. They basically took the average improvement scores of each of these games. Now, some of these games weren't necessarily the ones that eat up the processing power of a CPU, or even a GPU for that matter. I personally would like to see the improvement percentages of a game like Microsoft Flight Simulator, or even the new Marvel's Avengers game. They also showed us a Cinebench single core benchmark, and the i9 got a score of 544, while the new Ryzen 9 5950X got a score of 631. Let's just say that 631 is a pretty decent score. Now, keep in mind that these numbers are provided to us by AMD. We would need to do some real world testing. I'd like to see some more benchmarks on these to actually get a better feel of the true power of these new processors. But if these numbers are correct, it looks like AMD is now better than the top tier Intel processors on single core and multi-core benchmarks. Where is Intel in all this? Well, yesterday, before today's AMD show, in a blog post, they mentioned that the new Rocket Lake processors are going to come early 2021 Q1. And today on Twitter, they're trying to steal AMD's thunder with a sweepstakes and using their own hashtag. And it's sort of working. Nonetheless, I'm curious to see what Intel has in store for us come 2021 Q1. But at the moment, it looks like AMD is reigning high and mighty. Now, when it comes to prices, I'll leave the prices up here for you guys to see. But for the most part, these prices are comparable to the Intel Core prices, but that's only if the Intel Core prices are on sale, which coincidentally right now they actually are. If you go to a site like, let's say, Micro Center, you can see for yourself. Now, this was a quick video, but before I go, I just want to ask you guys, what did you think of the AMD event? Are you leaning towards an AMD CPU or an Intel CPU, or are you just going to wait for the 2021 Rocket Lake CPUs and then compare? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, share this video with a buddy or two, and stay tuned for more.